Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, finding which books are appropriate for your children to read is like trying to navigate wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate for them to read. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. So if you're looking for real reviews from a mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. This week's book review is Resist, a Story of D-Day by Alan Gratz. And this is a novella companion to his novel Allies. And so while I do not have a full written review for the book Allies, I have read that before. And that novel is also a D-Day story, and it's told from multiple perspectives of different characters. So you have an American paratrooper who's on the young side. You have a British soldier, a French resistance fighter, and a Jewish girl. And so that story kind of details D-Day, but from those different perspectives. And then in Resist, the main character is Samira, and she is determined to save her mother from the hands of the Nazis who have captured her. So this is a very short book. It's only about 86 pages, I believe. Sorry, there's a lot in the back. 59 pages. So this is a pretty short story. If you have sort of a struggling reader, it might be something to grip their attention and make them maybe want to read Allies, which is a longer work. But Samira is trying to help her mom, who's a French resistance worker, helper, and she has been captured by the Nazis. Her father had been killed, and so the thought of losing her mother is sort of too much for her to bear. So knowing that the invasion is supposed to be taking place that very night, Samira is hoping to get help from Allied forces to help release her mom before she is killed at dawn. And so I'm going to read just a little bit of the opening, just to kind of give you sort of context and an idea. So it's June 6, 1944, before dawn, and this gives you also a little bit of Alan's writing style. Nazis in the night. The door to the tavern down the street swung open, and Samira Zidane gasped in horror. 5 Nazi officers staggered out into the lane, laughing and barking loudly at each other in German. Beside her, the little white dog that had become Samira's friend and companion in the last few hours, a scrappy terrier named Sereno, growled at the soldiers. He seemed to hate Nazis even more than Samira did. The soldiers were too wrapped up in whatever they were laughing about to have spotted her yet, and Samira snatched Sereno up in her arms and looked for a place to hide. It was long after curfew, the time the Nazis set for everyone in this part of occupied France to be inside their homes. People who were caught out after hours were often shot on sight as spies. And Samira really was a spy. She had been helping her mother run messages to and from the French resistance for months, and in the past few hours she'd actually helped the French resistance sabotage German trains. Samira's simple green dress and brown sweater might help her blend in as a villager if she was caught, but her light brown skin and black hair would definitely make her stand out. Samira was French-Algerian, and the Nazis would see she was one of the people they considered inferior and regularly shipped off to work camps. Samira spotted a shop doorway that was set back from the street and hurried toward it, one hand around Sereno and the other clutching the bottom of the blue kerchief she wore around her head, the one her mother had worn before the Nazis had stolen her away. Quick and quiet as a fox, Samira jumped the 2 steps to the doorway and darted into the small sliver of shadow where the Nazis wouldn't see her, and ran right into the other person who was already hiding there. So definitely a good intrigue as you're opening the story. The other thing about this is that the chapters are pretty short. And so at most, they're about 2 to 3 pages. And so again, this is a great high-low read, high interest, low difficulty in reading in the short chapters. So if you have a reader who is very reluctant, something like this can be really intriguing. And again, it may interest them into that other novel. So after escaping from this Nazi encounter, Samira is on her way to rescue her mother. She sees some paratroopers falling from the sky, and one is caught into a tree. She quickly sets about to help release the paratrooper, only to find that it's a dummy named Rupert. The sounds of war are coming from a speaker inside of him, and once the dummy drops to the ground, he actually explodes. So disappointed, Samira continues on to trying to find her mother and reach the town where she's being held at. And on her way, she comes across a glider that crash lands near her in a forest. Thinking that it's another false sense of help, she almost walks away, but she soon realizes that the men inside are real. She leads them to the bridge that they are there to capture, and unfortunately, one of the soldiers refuses to assist her in exchange for her help. He explains that he has to follow orders and he cannot leave. He does give her food and water for her continued journey. She does eventually reach the town where her mother is being held. Fortunately, due to the coming invasion, the town is devoid of most Nazis except for two who are with the prisoners that they're marching out into the woods. So Samira follows behind as she comes to the realization that the prisoners, her mother included, are actually digging their own graves before the Nazis shoot them. Samira's quick thinking helps save her mother and others. The story ends as they're walking back from the forest to the town as they wait for the liberation of France. Readers who like historical fiction, particularly World War II, will enjoy this quick little read. Alan Gratz does have a full novel that is set to release October of this year, and that one is entitled War Games, a Novel of 1936 Berlin. So I definitely plan to read that, so I will add that to my reading list, and hopefully I'll have a review for that by the end of this year. As for Allies, Allies is recommended ages 9 to 13. It is a powerful story of courage, loss, sacrifice, and fear. As with the majority of Gratz's novels, I would go on the older side, so maybe 12 and up, as sometimes the descriptions and the depictions of war are portrayed in a real light that could be too much for young readers and those who might be very sensitive to those details. Nevertheless, I would definitely recommend this book, Resist, for teens who do like this genre, and also I would recommend Allies if they kind of want to continue. They could read that first and then read this, or this one and then that one. But hopefully that's helpful to you as a parent to kind of give you an idea of some other books for your children to read. And hopefully you will join me next week for another book review.